Okay, so we're continuing in our introduction to Yeshayahu on what were the current events at that time. So we spoke about last time what happened at the end. Let me just mute everybody, and then if anybody wants to speak up, um, please unmute yourselves. I'll also put here in the chat box a link to the Google Drive folder where you can find all the source pages and audio recordings of the shiurim. So if anybody wants, you can copy that link and bookmark it. Okay, so again, we spoke about last time the events that happened at the end of the time of Amaziah. Again, Amaziah started off well, but then afterwards everything deteriorated. Finally, the culmination of Amaziah's reign was quite horrible. He lost the war to Israel, and basically Mamlechet Israel completely won that war, and the kingdom of Yehuda was decimated on all major accounts. Yoash, the king of Israel, made a breach in the walls of Yerushalayim on the northern side, thereby taking away Yehuda's security. He also took away all their treasures, the gold and silver that they had, all their treasury. So that was again destroying any economic power of the royal family of the kingdom. And also he took away the Bnei Ta'arovot. The Bnei Ta'arovot, we explained, are essentially hostages, but these weren't. These hostages were sort of the way that they conducted foreign diplomacy. In other words, that you made deals with other nations, other tribes, whatever it was, and you would receive members of their families, which were sort of, you would hold on to them as hostage. You might also give them in return some hostages. And that was the way that foreign diplomacy was conducted. I don't know if that's better or worse than the way they do it today, but that's the way it was done. And so essentially, he also shut down the foreign office of the kingdom of Judah, complete devastation of the kingdom. And as we explained, based on the way Rashi explains what the events that transpired, was that in the kingdom of Israel, Yoash died immediately after this war and was replaced by his son, Yerovam. And so we suggested as well that might have been sort of a punishment for, he won the war, he didn't instigate it, but he even tried to prevent it, but afterwards perhaps he was a little too harsh in what he did to Malchut Yehuda, to the kingdom of Yehuda following the war. So that was in the kingdom of Israel, replacement of kings. And also in Yehuda, there was also a replacement of kings. Even though Amaziah was not killed, he was expelled to the city of Lachish, and Uzziyahu, his son, took over instead of him. Again, apparently after what he had done, starting this unnecessary and obviously a terrible mistake to start this war with Mamlechet Israel. So basically the people in Yerushalayim wanted him out. They expelled him to Lachish, made his son the king instead. 15 years later, Amaziah, still in Lachish, was killed, and then from that on, Uzziyahu is the full king. In other words, he reigned until now also, but he was still sort of in doubt, so to speak, because technically his father was still alive. So his father was technically the king, even though for all practices, Uzziyahu became the king, and that's when Uzziyahu took over. And we saw a little bit last week that things started to turn positive during the times of Uzziyahu, because we mentioned, and this is something that's also mentioned in Sefer Melachim and also Divrei Yamim, that following his father's death, in other words, this is 15 years or more into his reign, into Uzziyahu's reign, Uzziyahu was able to return Eilat to the kingdom of Yehuda. Now that's a significant achievement. Why is that? So first of all, interesting to note, Eilat technically is not within the boundaries of Israel. The land of Israel, if you look at the boundaries as are described in the Torah, the southern boundary of Israel, again, according to the simple reading of the Psukim in the Torah, and according to most opinions, the southern boundary of Israel passes somewhere a little bit south of the Dead Sea, of Yam HaMelech. Okay, if you know Israel a bit, so Eilat is way farther south beyond the Dead Sea. So Eilat is beyond even what the normal expected borders of what we would call Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel, as based on the Torah. So this is clearly, getting quite a big chunk of land beyond even sort of what you would think the normal expected borders for what you might call the state of Israel. So Eilat was originally the one who originally was able to expand there was Shlomo HaMelech. At some point, it fell out of the control of the kingdom of Yehuda. Eilat, by the way, is around what we call today Eilat. It may have been some claim that it was more actually on what the Jordanian side, what today is called Aqaba. But it's sort of a continuation of Eilat. If you've been there, I'm sure you've seen it. So anyway, it's the southern tip of the desert where it hits the Red Sea, and so that's quite an achievement. It means that he's extending the borders of Mamlechet Yehuda, plus he's also now has a port city on to the Red Sea, which is something significant, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So already we see things are much improving in the times of Uziyahu. Now what we'll do now is we'll study a bit more in depth of what exactly happened during the times of Uziyahu and how he was able to sort of turn around the whole situation from how he received it from his father, which was in quite a bad state. After we do that, then we'll take a look at what was going on in the northern side, in the kingdom of Israel during the same time. And we'll also see some remarkable achievements there. And then, if we have time left, we'll start to get into Yeshayahu chapter 6, which we said is the first prophecy of Yeshayahu. So that's our goal for this evening. Okay, so let's go inside to the source pages. Okay. So let's see what happened during the times of Uziyahu. Okay, so we're now reading in Divrei HaYamim Bet, the second book of Divrei HaYamim, chapter 26, starting from verse 3. Okay, so it says, again, this is picking up after where we left off last time. So it says, Ben 16 shana Uziyahu b'molcho, ו-52 shana malach b'Yerushalayim, v'shem imo Yecholia min Yerushalayim. So Uziyahu was 16 years old when he became king, and he reigned 52 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Yecholia of Yerushalayim. Okay, now these 52 years, okay, I'll just say this briefly, we're not doing yet all the calculations, but as we said, these 52 years were not completely his. Why not? Because on the one hand, his first 15 years, his father was still alive. So there's an overlap here of these 52 years, that 15 were actually overlapping with his father's reign because his father was still alive, even though de facto king was Uziyahu. On the other edge of the 52 years, if you remember, we mentioned, and we'll see this again tonight, that at some point Uziyahu became a leper, and he stopped functioning as king, and his son Yotam took over for him. So part of these 52 years, even though maybe technically he was king, he wasn't actually king because his son was the de facto king because he became a leper and basically was removed from office. So even though he has these 52 years, they weren't really a full 52 years because on some of them, he was the de facto king, but his father was technically still the king. And on the other hand, he was in the same situation, just in the opposite role, that he was sort of technically still the king as alive, but the de facto king was his son. In the middle of these 52 years, he had a chunk where he was just the king and nobody else, okay? Okay, so let's continue. Verse number 4, Pasuk Daled. Vayas hayashar beinei Adonai kechol asher asa Amatziyahu aviv. Fantastic. He did what was pleasing to the Lord, just as his father Amaziah had done. Okay, so he starts off well. There's a little bit of a hint here, because if you remember, his father also started off well, and then afterwards things took a turn for the worse, and we'll see that's what happened here also with Uziyahu. Okay, so it says in Pasuk Hey, Vayhi lidrosh Elohim b'imei Zchariyahu, hamevin birot ha'Elohim, uv'imei dorosho et Adonai hitzlicho ha'Elohim. Okay, he applied himself to the worship of God during the times of Zechariah, instructor in the visions of God. During the time he worshipped the Lord, God made him prosper. Okay, so apparently there was a prophet during this time called Yeshayahu. And by the way, this is interesting, but we find this name of Yeshayahu appearing as name of prophets in many periods of the Tanakh. So it seems that Zechariah, there were more than one prophet called Zechariah. Okay, but that's a side note. Okay, and this Zechariah, he was guiding Uzziah, so that's very good. But if we see here, there's a slight hint in this pasuk. It says, "Ubimei dorsho et Hashem hitzlicho Elohim." In other words, during the time he worshipped the Lord, God made him prosper. So there's a slight hint here that when did he prosper? During the time that he worshipped the Lord. But apparently there was another time that he did not worship the Lord, and in that time he did not prosper. So we're already having hints here that even though he certainly was good and he was righteous and he was good, at some point that stopped being so, or at some point that took a turn for the worse. Okay, so let's see what he did there. Okay, pasuk Vav. Okay, ויצא וילחם בפלישתים, ויפרוץ את חומת גת, ואת חומת יבנה, ואת חומת אשדוד, ויבנה ערים באשדוד ובפלישתים. Okay, he went forth to fight the Philistines, and he breached the wall of Gat, and the wall of Yavne, and the wall of Ashdod. He built towns in the region of Ashdod among the Philistines. I don't think I can stress enough what an achievement Uzziyahu had here. The Plishtim, again, I'll try to explain a little bit why this is an incredible achievement. The Plishtim, the Philistines, they dominated the land of Eretz Israel all throughout his Jewish history until this point, all throughout the Tanakh history at this point. If you look closely during the times of Yoshua, during the times of the Shoftim, during the times of Shaul HaMelech, and even afterwards, David, Shlomo, the Plishtim, they were the power in the area, and they had control over certainly their cities. And during a lot of these times, they actually had control over most of the land of Israel. For example, you can read during the times of Shaul HaMelech, it says that there was not a sword to be found in all of Israel because of the Plishtim. Only 2 people had swords, Shaul and his son, that's it. Okay, so they dominated this area. David HaMelech was able to fight against the Plishtim and fend them off. We know the story of Goliath, and we know other wars that he did against the Plishtim, but he never conquered cities of the Plishtim. Even Shlomo HaMelech, we don't find anywhere that he was certainly powerful, but we don't find that Shlomo HaMelech was able to conquer cities of the Plishtim itself. The first one that we find doing so is here, Uzziyahu, in this verse. Again, I'll show it again and put it on the screen again. Look what it does. He breached the walls of Gat, the walls of Yavne, the walls of Ashdod. Gat, Yavne, and Ashdod, we know them now as cities in Israel, Kiryat Gat, Yavne, Ashdod, etc. But these were cities of the Plishtim, and very difficult cities, all walled, and he was able to breach them. And he built towns in the regions of Ashdod and Plishtim. So this is tremendous. If he's gaining control over the cities of the Plishtim, this is a tremendous achievement, and he's taking over, and he's settling those areas which had not been settled by Yehuda until now. Another reason why it's important that he took over specifically Ashdod and Yavne, anybody have an idea what's significant about these cities? Anybody familiar with their location in Israel?
Are they ports?
Port cities, excellent. Ashdod, port city, also in Israel. To this day, one of the biggest ports, if not the biggest, I think, is in Ashdod.
Port cities, yeah.
Maybe Haifa, maybe I don't know which has a bigger port, but Ashdod is a major port city. Now that's very significant, especially if we take into account that he also had Eilat, which was a port city. Okay, and we're talking about times before there was the Suez Canal. So essentially, if you have a port city in Ashdod, which is on the Mediterranean Sea, you have another port city in Eilat, which is on the Red Sea. Essentially, you can send out ships from Ashdod or from Eilat, whichever one you want to go, that will go all around Africa and come back on the other side. Okay, so this is a very significant achievement, getting a port city on these two edges. And we'll see one of the interesting things that Yeshayahu will talk about major ships. Okay, and we can understand what these major ships that Yeshayahu is going to talk about, and we'll discuss why they're significant. But we can understand that on this background, that Uzziah was able to build these two port cities in Ashdod and in Eilat. Okay, so, but we have time till we get to that, but I'm just pointing out this already, just to understand the significance of what's happening here. Okay. Okay, let's continue. Let's see what he does next. Okay, Pasuk Zayin. ויעזרהו האלוהים על הפלישתים ועל הערבים היושבים בגור בעל והמעונים. God helped him against the Philistines, against the Arabs who lived in Gur Baal, and the Meunites, the Meunim. ויתנו ההמונים מנחה לעוזיהו, וילך שמו עד לבוא מצרים, כי החזיק עד למעלה. So the Ammonites paid tribute to Uzziah, and his fame spread to the approaches of Egypt, for he grew extremely strong. Okay, very good. So he's conquering other nations, the Plishtim, these Arvi'im, these Meunim, the Ammonim are paying him taxes, and he's becoming very famous even all the way till Egypt. All of a sudden, this small kingdom in Israel is achieving world fame. Pasuk Tet. ויבן עוזיהו מגדלים בירושלים על שער הפינה ועל שער הגיא ועל המקצוע ויחזקם. Uzziah built towers in Jerusalem on the corner gate and the valley gate and on the angle, and fortified them. Okay, so he's building up the walls of Yerushalayim. We spoke about his father left him walls with a big breach. He's not only rebuilt the walls, but he's adding these towers on all the corners. In other words, he's significantly fortifying Yerushalayim. Okay, verse number 10. ויבן מגדלים במדבר, ויחצוב ברות רבים, כי מקנה רב היה לו, ובשפלה ובמישור, עיקרים וחורמים בערים ובכרמל, כי אוהב אדמה היה. Okay, so let's see what happened here. He built towers in the wilderness, and hewed out many cisterns, for he had much cattle, and farmers in the foothills on the plains, and vine dressers in the mountains and on the fertile lands, for he loved the soil. Okay, now I'll ask you a question here as well. It says that he built towers in the desert, and he also made these cisterns. In other words, when you're digging these borot, the idea is to try to find water. Okay, so why is he building towers in the desert? What's that? What are the purpose of those towers?
Well, it's a lookout.
Yeah, a lookout. But what are you looking out for?
If the enemy are approaching.
Okay, that's one possibility. You're saying he's defending against enemy. Anybody have another suggestion? Why you would build towers in the desert? Assuming you're not...
Perhaps for communication?
Communication?
Perhaps communication.
Communication with who?
The next tower?
To get to where?
Not sure.
Okay. Okay, think about it. A tower, you're right, Florida. A tower is usually something that's done for security purposes. A tower is a lookout, it's strategic. But besides enemies, who else? Again, you're putting up towers in the desert. I mean, there's likely, unless it's some sort of, some sort of communist regime trying to spend money somehow, there's probably some rationality going on here. So what kind of security are you trying to create by these towers in the middle of the desert? Think about what the desert was used for. We're talking about the southern desert of Yehuda, of Israel. Why is that desert important? It's just a desert. People are not likely living there so much. What's the significance of that desert that you would want to put up towers there?
Transport of goods.
Oh, very good, excellent. Okay, the desert of Israel is on a very significant path of transport. This is well known and well documented, that led on the one hand to Sinai, to Egypt, and it would lead up through the desert of Israel, going up north, all the way to eventually you would reach Syria, Mesopotamia, which was, again, the two major cultures, Egypt on the one hand and Syria and Mesopotamia on the northern eastern direction, and it would all pass through Israel. Israel, in some sources, is called Eretz Gesh. It's the bridge between, these two great cultures, commercial centers. Okay, so essentially, what is Yeshayahu doing? He's creating security on these paths of commerce. In other words, he's providing security for all the businessmen, traders, etc., that are sending these goods through the desert from all the pirates, not pirates of the sea, but I don't know what they're called, but pirates of the desert that would often attack these traders that were passing through with the goods. We know, for example, by the way, very famously, who was also sent off on the road to Egypt from through this path? Yosef, of course. Yosef was sold to a group of Ishmaelim or Midyanim, whoever it was, traders on the way to Egypt. Okay, so he's creating security for all these businessmen, all these traders that are sending their goods through. What's he gaining by providing them security? Again, he's also digging these borot. These borot are trying to find wells. So he's also providing for them water in their path along the desert. Okay, so he's providing security. He's providing water. What is he gaining from it? How can he make money off of this? Why is this good for the kingdom of Judah to do this?
You can sell the water.
He can sell the water, and he can also
Charge taxes,
yes,
revenue.
Of course, you're passing through. I'm providing you security. There's a certain fee you have to pay for this service, and they'll happily pay it because it's better off than having whoever it is, these robbers come and take everything you have. Okay, so this is very good economically for Yehuda. Okay, very good idea what he's doing here. And yeah, I'm sorry. Somebody wanted to say something? Okay. Yeah, please. Did I miss somebody? Okay. All right, so we'll continue. Let's see what he does. What happens next? Okay, so we said, so that's the Migdalim Bamidbar, the towers that he has in the desert, the Borot. He also has Mikne Rav Hayalo. He has a lot of cattle, sheep, whatever it is, and he also has a lot of agriculture going on. Karamim. Okay, so he has the orchards and whatever it is that he's growing there. Okay, so this is sort of the economic success of Uziyahu. Okay, let's continue. Verse 11. ויהי לעוזיהו חיל עושה מלחמה יוצאי צבא לגדוד ומספר פקודתם ביד יעל הסופר ומעשיהו השוטר על יד חנניה ומשרי המלך. Okay, so Uziyahu had an army of warriors, a battle-ready force who were mustered by Yeshayahu the scribe and Maasiyah the adjutant under Hananiah, one of the king's officers. Okay, so these were the high-ranking people in his army. כל מספר ראשי אבות לגיבורי חיל 2,600. The clan chiefs' valiants totaled 2,600. So this was sort of the elite units, the commando units, whatever you would call them. In Israel, maybe the Matkal and these top units. So 2,600. And how big was the general army? ועל ידם חיל צבא 300,000 ו7,500 עושי מלחמה בכוח חיל לעזור למלך על האויב. Okay? Under them was the trained army of 307,500 who made war with might and power to aid the king against the enemy. Okay, so he had a huge army of over 300,000 soldiers. Okay, this is incredible, but as we'll also learn in Yeshayahu, was problematic having such a large army. Okay, ויכן להם עוזיהו לכל הצבא מגינים ורמחים וכובעים ושריונות וקשתות לאבני הקלעים. Uzziah provided them, the whole army, with shields and spears and helmets and mail and bows and slingstones. So all this army is fully equipped with all the equipment they need. ויעש בירושלים חשבונות מחשבות חושב להיות על המגדלים ועל הפינות לירו בחיצים ובאבנים גדולות ויצא שמו עד למרחוק כי הפליא לעזר עד כי חזק. He made clever devices in Jerusalem, set on the towers and on the corners for shooting arrows and large stones. His fame spread far, for he was helped wonderfully, and he became strong. Okay, excellent. everything is going well. So we see here that he's also developing some military technology, some sort of cannons that they used to shoot arrows and big stones and some boulders. And because of this, he became quite famous. Okay, so we see Uzziyahu tremendously successful on all fronts. I made a little chart comparing Uzziyahu to his father, just so we see the difference. Okay, I'll show this to you. So here, I said, on the security front, we have, I made this little chart, Amaziah versus Uzziah. Amaziah, how did he finish up? With the big breach in the wall of Yerushalayim on the northern side of it, of 400 amot, let's say about 200 meters breach in the wall. And on the other hand, Uzziyahu, he's breaching other nations' walls. He's breaching the walls of the Plishtim. And on the other hand, he's building up, fortifying Yerushalayim's walls with these extra towers. Okay? So we see the parallel to his father, complete turn of events. What about on the economic side? As we said, Amaziah lost all the royal treasures, all the gold and the silver, everything that they had in the treasures in the Beit HaMikdash and the Beit HaMelech, the house of Hashem and the house of the king. And Uzziyahu, on the other hand, very successful economically, building port cities, controlling the commercial routes in the desert, cattle, sheep, whatever it is, and also he's developing the land, you know, and people are growing things. Excellent. What about on the foreign office? We said Amaziah's foreign office shut down all the hostages taken away. On the other hand, Uzziyahu, Vayetzeh Shmuad lemerachok, his name goes out to all the nations. So he's become very successful also on the foreign diplomacy front, a complete change of events from the time of his father Amaziah. Okay, very good. Let's see now, before we see the deterioration of Uzziyahu, let's see what's happening on our good friends, our brothers up north in Malchut Yisrael. What are they doing during this time? Okay, so for this, we will turn to the book of Melachim, okay, in Melachim Bet. Okay, so it says in Pasuk of Gimel in Melachim Bet chapter 14, verse 23, we have Bishnat 15 shana le'Amatziyahu ben Yoash melech Yehuda, Malach Yerovam ben Yoash melech Yisrael b'Shomron 41 shana. Okay, so it says here, again, we have all these problems with the years, okay, but we'll leave them alone for now. So in the 15th year of Amaziah, again, we sort of have to figure out how this calculation works, but this was somewhere in the middle of Amaziah. Based on what we said earlier, this occurred right after the war, when Amaziah, even though he was still technically the king, he was evicted from Yerushalayim. At that time, Yoash died, and now took over Yerovam, the son of Yoash. Okay, now the name Yerovam is significant. Why is the name Yerovam significant? Anybody know? Yes, Flora.
We said it with Yeroboam was the first king of Israel, and the tribes broke away.
Yes,
and he was a very wicked king, and he made others sin, and he sinned and made others sin. So it goes down in history that he will not be, you know, part of it. He'll never be forgiven. So the Talmud tells us his sins will never be forgiven because he made others sins.
Right. Okay, very good, Flora. So essentially, as Flora said, Yerovam was the name of the king who founded the kingdom of Israel. In other words, we had Shlomo Melech, who ruled over both Yehuda and Israel. But then, due to the sins of Shlomo, Hashem said that he will tear up the kingdom, and Rechavam, his son, will lose half the kingdom. And essentially, during the times of Shlomo Melech's son, again, this was caused because of Shlomo Melech's own faults, but the kingdom was torn up, and Yerovam was anointed to be the first king of the Malchut Yisrael, of the kingdom of Israel. And he was the one that essentially founded the kingdom of Israel. Now, the founding of the kingdom of Israel that he did, that was fine. He was told by God to do that. The prophet was sent to appoint him as king of Israel. The problem was that afterwards, he did all kinds of things that he shouldn't have done, which, as Flora said, made him infamous for those actions. Okay, so that was the first Yerovam. Now we have a second Yeravam, okay, the son of Yoash, what we call Yeravam Ashani, the second Yeravam, and he's now become king in Israel parallel to Uzziah in Yerushalayim. Okay, so let's see how he does and how he compares to the first Yeravam. Okay, so what does he say? Pasuk Kaf Daled, Vayas hara beinei Adonai, lo sar mikol chatot Yerovam ben Nevat asher achti et Yisrael. He did what was displeasing to the Lord. He did not depart from all the sins that Yerovam, son of Nevat, had caused Israel to commit. So again, Yerovam ben Nevat is the first Yerovam, and it seems that the second Yerovam is following in the footsteps of the first Yerovam. He's doing the same sins that Yerovam did, the first Yerovam. Okay, sounds bad, but on the other hand, Pasuk Kafei, it says, "Hu heshiv et gvul Yisrael milevo chamat ad yam ha'arava, kidvar Adonai Elohei Yisrael asher diber biyad avdo Yonah ben Amittai hanavi asher migat hachefer." It was he who restored the territory of Israel from Lebo Chamat to the Sea of Arabah, in accordance with the promise that the Lord, the God of Israel, had made through his servant, the prophet Yonah, son of Amittai, from Gat Hefer. Where is Chamat? It says that he's returning the borders of Israel, approaching Chamat. Where is Chamat? Anybody know? Anybody familiar with the city of Chamat?
Is it in Hamat Gadara? Is it in the north somewhere? I don't know. I've got very bad sense
of north, but you have to go up more north than Gadara.
Near to Beirut, isn't it?
Golan.
Yeah, Hamat is way up. It's what we call
Syria,
like
no?
exactly Syria.
Syria.
We don't have anybody here from Homs. I think it's called in English. Okay, so we're going up way up into Syria, which I hope was in a little bit of a situation back then than it is now. Okay, so this is very good. So we have Uzziah extending the borders on the south, and Yerovam on the north extending the borders up north into Syria. The one who originally was able to conquer all the way into Syria was David HaMelech. Okay, and now Yerovam is also again extending the borders up north. Where is he getting this success from if he's such a terrible and sinning king? Why is this happening? Okay, so let's see. So the Tanakh offers us an explanation. And it says, Pasuk Avav, Ki ra'a Adonai et oni Yisrael more me'od, ve'efes atzur ve'azuv, ve'ein ozer le'Yisrael. For the Lord saw the very bitter plight of Israel, and with either bond nor free left, and with none to help Israel, ולא דיבר אדוני למחות את שם ישראל מתחת השמיים, ויושיעם ביד ירבעם בן יואש. And the Lord resolved not to blot out the name of Israel from under the heaven, and he delivered them through Yerovam, son of Yoash. Okay, so essentially what the Psukim seem to be saying here is that even though Yerovam was sinning, and he was continuing the path of the first Yerovam, nevertheless, God did not want to give up on Israel. Okay, at least in this stage, he did not want to give up on Israel, and therefore, despite the fact that they were sinning, nevertheless, he brought salvation to them through Yerovam ben Yovash, and that's why Yerovam ben Yovash achieved the success and was able to extend the borders and to conquer up north. Okay, and now we have a very interesting pasuk, which at first glance seems to be technical, but on the other hand, I think has a deep meaning. Okay, so let's see what it says here. ויתר דברי ירבעם, וכל אשר עשה, וגבורתו אשר נלחם ואשר השיב את דמשק ואת חמת. Okay, what is Damascus? Damascus, everybody should know. This is an easy one.
Damascus.
Okay, again, up in Syria. Okay.
Syria.
Yeah, again, Syria, same as we said before. Okay, ואשר השיב את דמשק ואת חמת ליהודה בישראל, הלא הם כתובים על ספר דברי הימים למלכי ישראל. Okay, the other events of Yeroboam's reigns and all his actions and exploits, and now we fought and recovered Damascus and Hamat for Yehuda and Israel, are recorded in the books of the kings of Israel. Okay, so it seems like a regular technical summary like we find in many psukim in the Tanakh. you know, it says, and everything else that he did, you can find writing in the books, the Sefer HaMelachim. It seems like we have all these kinds of books that are mentioned. But there is one word here in this verse that doesn't seem to be in place, that doesn't seem to fit. Can anybody see what that word is? One word here in this verse here that we just read.
Yeah, yeter. Yeter.
Yeah, yeter just means the other. Yeter,
Yeah, the rest. Yeah.
The rest, it's found in another book. I'm not writing here. Go read about that in history books.
I suggest.
Is it because it's conquering for Judah?
Hello, Hem.
Alan, very good. Yehuda Israel. Anybody else? Somebody else wanted to say that or say something different? I didn't catch.
Yeah.
But I suggested it recovered Damascus. Did they ever have it in the first place?
Well, look, David HaMelech conquered into Syria. I think Homs is even farther into Syria than Damascus. So that sort of makes sense. If he got all the way up to Hamath, then I think he would also have Damascus. If I remember correctly the map. Okay, please check me up on that. But you're right, Alan said excellently. It says, "V'asher yishib Damascus v'et Hamath leYehuda b'Yisrael." What does it mean that he returned it to Yehuda b'Yisrael? He's not the king of Yehuda. Again, these are two separate kingdoms. He's the king of Israel. Why does it say that he's returning Damascus and Hamath to Yehuda b'Yisrael? It should have just said, "Asher yishib Damascus v'et Hamath leYisrael." How does Yehuda fit into this verse?
Is it to do with the fact that, hello, Diane, Jeroboam split the kingdom? He had many opportunities to bring them back together, but he didn't. Perhaps this is something to show that he's trying to bring them back together. They'll be at one with each other.
Fantastic. So I think very good, Flora, excellent. I think what's being hinted to in this verse is that even though we still obviously had two separate kingdoms of Israel and Yehuda, as opposed to the situation in their fathers' times of Amaziah and Yoash going to war each other, apparently there was some sort of unity or some sort of cooperation between Israel and Yehuda. And that's why it says here, Yishishiv leYehuda b'Yisrael, telling us that there was some sort of, I don't know if there was what exactly they had, but some sort of joint kingdom of Yehuda and Israel. Okay? Complete polar difference between the times of their father, not going to war, rather tremendous success. We have the kingdom extending on the south on Yehuda, on the north by Yerovam, all the way up, and having some sort of unity or cooperation until so far that the Psuk can go out and call it Yehuda b'Yisrael, sort of hinting to some sort of joint kingdom of Yehuda b'Yisrael. Okay, now if we follow this train of logic, we'll see something very interesting, that essentially, if this understanding is correct, the second Yerovam is in some sense actually correcting the major sin of the first Yerovam. Why? Okay, so Chazal, they give a story which really sort of explains what was wrong with what the first Yerovam did. Because again, the first Yerovam, just the founding of the kingdom of Israel, he was told by Hashem to do that. Hashem sent a prophet to do that. The problem is that when he founded the kingdom of Israel, he wanted to create a divide and a separation. He wasn't allowing people to go to Yerushalayim. He did a lot of things that were problematic just beyond the founding of the kingdom of Israel. So Chazal make a description of the first Yerovam, something very interesting. And they say as follows. It says, the Gemara in Sanhedrin says as follows. Okay, this is going back earlier in Sefer Melachim. It says that after all this, Yerovam did not return from his evil way. Mayachar, Amar Rabbi Abba, achar shetfaso HaKadosh Baruch Hu liYerovam bevigdo, ve'amar lo chazor becha, ve'ani ata uben Yishai netayel began Eden. Okay, so the Gemara explains as follows. Rabbi Abba said, it is after the Holy One, blessed be He, grabbed Yerovam by his garment and said to him, repent, and you and I and the son of Yishai will stroll together in the Garden of Eden. In other words, Hashem is essentially offered the first Yerovam, you can still go back on your evil actions, and you, as king of Israel, and Ben Yishai, the descendant of David HaMelech, who was the descendant of Yishai, the kingdom of Yehuda, will all stroll together in Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden. Okay? What did Yerovam answer? Amar lo mi barosh. Yerovam said to him, who will walk in the lead? Who will be number one on this entourage of going in the Garden of Eden together? So God, Amar lo ben Yishai barosh. So God said to him, the son of Yishai will take the lead. Ihachi lo ba'ina. Yerovam said, if so, if Ben Yishai is number one, I do not wish to repent. In other words, Yerovam was offered essentially, you can have the kingdom of Israel, and you'll be king, and you'll walk together with God in leading the Jewish nation, provided that you accept the supremacy of the king of Yehuda, who is the son of David HaMelech, the chosen one. Yerovam says, I don't want to be number two. I want to be number one, and that was his great sin. The second Yerovam, we sort of have a hinting to. We had the verse say, Yehuda be-Yisrael. When it says, it doesn't say Yisrael be-Yehuda, it says Yehuda be-Yisrael. Who is number one here? Yehuda, headed by Uzziah. Okay, so it could be very well be that Yerovam essentially accepted in this sort of partnership with Yehuda, accepted Yehuda as being number one, and in essence allowed Uzziah to take the lead. Okay, complete change of events from the times of the first Yerovam, who actually refused to be second fiddle to Yehuda, and that's what brought about everything else that he did. Okay, so just to sum up what we saw this evening, we saw tremendous success both in Uzziah, expanding borders, rich economically, foreign diplomacy, also up north at the same time. Yerovam very successfully extending the borders up north, good relations between Yehuda and Israel. Okay, everything is fantastic. However, as we mentioned a few shiurim ago, at some point Uzziah sins, offers the Iktoret in the Beit HaMikdash, becomes a leper, and from there things start to go downhill. And at that point, Yeshayahu will come into the picture. Okay, so again, not next week, but on Monday, July 13, when we pick up again, we'll start studying Yeshayahu Perek Vav, and at that point where he interjects at this seemingly fantastic point in Jewish history, but essentially about to hit the part of the roller coaster where things start to go down. Okay, somebody wrote here in the chat, was Yerovam a vassal king? I don't know if he was a vassal king, but it sounds like there was some sort of cooperation between him and Uzziah, maybe slightly allowing Uzziah to take the lead. I don't know if that actually makes him a vassal king, but I think there might have been some sort of cooperation with them. That's sort of what I'm trying to suggest. Okay, any other questions or comments?